forest to see Miss Tree. She lives in a house that is mostly green, except for the chimney and windows and walls, and one or two places just down the halls. And it's filled with rabbits and newts and snails, and fat little puppies that wag their tails, and a whale and a tiger and elephants too.
Well, maybe not elephants.
Hi, welcome to Hodgepodge Lodge. Hal and Julie and I are thinking about kinds of things to grow in winter to make your house or your room cheerful when everything's still sort of dead outside. We have a couple of things here on the table. I was just getting ready to ask Julie and Hal some questions about them. See if you can think of the answers. Now, what do you think that is, Julie?
Well, yeah. Sort of weird looking.
You have any idea, Hal?
Some bulbs.
Some bulbs.
Some bulbs.
Good, good. I don't want to dig these up because it might hurt them from growing, but we'll see what a bulb looks like a little later on. Do you know what the name of those?
I've seen them.
What kind of flowers do you think they're going to have?
I've seen them before on the ground in the forest.
Yes, you see them in the spring in your front yard, and sometimes you see them in the 10-cent store, and they have purple or yellow blossoms. And their name is like something a toad or a frog does. What do you call that noise a frog
Crocus.
makes? Very good, Julie. Crocus. That's what those are going to be, and they're just getting started. What do you think this is, Hal? This pretty little plant with nice green leaves.
I'm not sure.
Well, I'll give you a hint. What's this?
Grapefruit.
Grapefruit.
Well,
right, a grapefruit tree, a little baby grapefruit tree. And what do you think you have to do to get a grapefruit tree?
Usually you plant it outside.
Yeah. Well, what do you plant?
Let a tree grow. Grapefruit seeds.
Grapefruit seeds. Shall we open up our grapefruit and see if there's some seeds inside? Mm-hmm. Nowadays, you know, farmers are so tricky. I think they might have some grapefruit that don't have seeds in. Wouldn't that be a surprise?
Yeah, seedless grapefruit.
You can find.
They're different kinds. Some of them.
Oh, we're in luck. This grapefruit has a few seeds in, but what did I do?
You cut them in half.
I cut them in half. Do you think they would grow very well?
No.
It's a good thing I already have some growing, isn't it?
You take one out and see what the back looks like.
Right. Oh, my, that was a sort of a square seed.
Square.
Oh, there's one I didn't cut. Good. Do you like grapefruit?
Yes.
Yeah. I like the pink grapefruit best of all. What do you put on your grapefruit at home?
Sugar.
Sugar?
Some people put salt, but I put sugar.
Some people put honey, too. That's very good. Have you ever tried that?
No.
Well, how big do you suppose a grapefruit tree has to be before it has grapefruit on it? Have you any idea? Have you ever seen?
It has to grow for a long time.
Right. And can you grow one around here? Could we plant one outside? No. Why?
Because the climate has to be warm.
That's why it's fun to start a little one inside. I have a bigger one over in my window. Shall we take a little trip over there and see how big one gets after it's about 7 or 8 years old? Maybe as old as some of you. Would you like to see it?
Sure.
Okay. I'll take my knife along because I might need it a little later. Here, Julie, you can sit on the window bench. That's a good place for you, Hal. Here it is. Isn't it handsome in its special pot? Now, let's see. It's got some different things on. Feel right in there. What do you feel?
Ooh, thorns.
Thorns. Did you know grapefruit trees had thorns?
No.
How do the leaves feel?
Smooth.
Smooth and sort of tough, don't they? They're
rough too.
They're tough.
So some of them have bumps.
Looks like I ought to get my dust cloth over here and give them a dusting, doesn't it?
Some of it looks like bugs have gotten.
Right. Well, I set it outside in the summertime, so probably a bug did take a bite out of it. So there's one that's about as old as you children are, but it'll never have any grapefruit on around here. But that's just one thing to make your house look pretty in the winter. Would you like to see some of my other things?
Yes.
That you can start in your house and cheer up things during the long, cold winter. It is a long, cold winter. Well, where shall we start? Shall we start with let's start with the littlest things first, okay? And work up to the big things. Now, I think you might have some idea what kind of stuff is in this dish.
Looks like bird food.
Yeah. Sit down, Julie, will you? I'll pass it over to you a little later so you can see it.
Bird seeds on a sponge.
It looks like bird seed, right. And why do you suppose I put it on a sponge? What can you do? What do sponges do?
They absorb water.
They absorb water. So,
It rains.
what was I trying to do? Can you see what's happened?
Keep them moist.
Right, and what happened? Can you see what happened to some of them?
They grouped.
They what?
They grouped from the moistness.
They rooted, didn't they? See, there's a grain of wheat and some little pieces of millet, I think. And there was a sunflower seed in here that had a, oh, there.
There's another one, too.
Where's that sunflower seed that had a root on?
There it is.
That one doesn't have a root on. Oh, thank you, Julie. Well, that doesn't have a root on, but oh, there's one. See? It looks like a, I don't know what it looks like, a little animal getting a root on. There's the tallest one.
Yeah.
That's going to grow up and look like some kind of grass.
That's a funny looking one.
Mm-hmm. That's wheat. That's wheat, like you have in your cereal some mornings. That's got a root and the leaf coming out. So if you're in a hurry to get something growing, just take a handful of bird seed. It can be parakeet seed or seed that you put out for the birds. Get a wet sponge, sprinkle the seed on the sponge, and you're in business. Pretty soon the grass will be so high you might even have to cut it.
If you just put some seeds in the water, the whole bowl would soon be filled with roots.
Right, but if you get it too wet, then it sort of gets moldy and sour. That's why it's a good idea to have your seeds on a sponge. Hey, Hal, you want to stuff that sponge back in the bowl for me? And we'll see what other interesting things we can find. Oh, vegetables. Do you children like vegetables?
Yes.
All kinds of vegetables?
Not all kinds.
What is this?
Turnip.
Turnip, good. And what do you notice about it?
Roots. Purple on one side. Has roots. And it's white.
Well, those are the old roots from where it was in the ground last summer.
It's got a little.
What's going here? Yeah.
It's got purple on one side and white on the other.
You know what I like to do with turnip greens? Have a bite. They're full of vitamins. And if you if your mother has turnips for supper, ask her to save the tops. Be sure she cuts them off with a little bit of turnip on them.
I like to have turnips and put salt on them. Raw turnips and put salt.
And then all you have to do is plant them in a little bit of water, and you'll have a little turnip patch. And every time you feel like a little nibble, just come by and pinch off a leaf. And it'll keep growing for quite a while. And some other vegetables you can do that way too. Here's one I bet you recognize.
Radish.
A radish. Look how nicely that's perking up there. Do you like radishes?
Yes.
Good. With salt?
No.
Just plain. How about you, Hal?
Sometimes I like
Sometimes they're very hot, aren't they, and burn your tongue. But even if you don't like them, it's fun to try to grow the tops. Would you like a bite of that? I've never tasted a radish top. You know, lots of people throw all their vegetable tops away, but they're really full of vitamins. And even if you don't like to eat them plain, you could throw them into your tossed salad. No one would even know they were there.
That's what my mother does.
What's another vegetable that you cut the tops off before you cook it? Right, carrots. Let's see, we've got some that have oh, there's one that practically looks like it has a forest on top of it. When you take a carrot out of the package, sometimes you can't even see any top on it at all. But if you just cut off that top,
and then put it in water.
Put it in some water. Usually there's some little buds there that will start to grow, and pretty soon you'll get some nice green carrot tops. May want a carrot top? You're going to be so healthy. Oh, that's very good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Tastes more like the carrot itself.
Right. It has a little bit of the carrot in it. Well, those are can you think of any other vegetables that I don't have that you might cut the tops off and put in a dish of water? What's a vegetable that's sort of dark red?
Tomato.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that doesn't have a top you cut off. It's tough like a turnip. real hard and tough like a turnip.
Apple.
It's dark red, darker than a apple, sort of purple. And some people make soup out of them, I think. Don't you ever have that soup at your house, Hal? It's made out of beets.
Oh,
Beet
yeah,
soup?
beets.
Beet soup. Those tops are good to grow.
They're like, you just have plain beets with string beans,
Yes.
or just sliced beets.
Well, I don't like beets very well myself, but I like to watch the tops grow. So try that sometime. Now, Julie was looking at those crocus bulbs, and I told her we'd see what a bulb looked like. And what is this in this jar?
An onion.
An onion. It's sort of a bulb. And I put this in the water because I wanted you to see how many roots onions got on them, and look how many roots my onion got.
Only 2.
Only 2. But you try it, and I bet your onion will get lots of roots. The roots grow down, and what comes up?
A little top.
Yeah, mine hasn't started to get any green leaves on it yet, but that's what'll happen. And it'll grow for a long time. Your roots will go all the way down to the bottom. If you have a sister or a brother, you might have an onion race. Do you ever think of having an onion growing race at your house? Each of you get a jar, and each of you get an onion, and see whose onion's roots touch the bottom first, or which onion gets the tallest leaves.
Or see who's fill the jar.
Right, right.
When they get real long, they get all tangled up in the bottom.
Right, because they don't have any place to go. Now, will this onion keep growing forever in just plain water? No. It's using up the food that's inside the onion, isn't it? And pretty soon the onion will get all shriveled up. But if you want it to keep growing, what could you do when spring comes?
Plant it in the ground.
Right, take it out and plant it in your garden.
Some bulbs, they're for flowers.
Right, right. And that reminds me, I think I have some of those right here in a great big container that looks like a canoe. Or
the bottom looks sort of like an onion.
Now this is a nice container because you can see the bulbs growing right on top of the gravel. And this is a very easy thing to grow. What do you call these? Do you know?
Paper whites.
Paper white narcissus. And they're up there so tall, but I want you to smell them because they're so good. Can you? Oh, there's one hanging down low. Can you got a good one to smell? Isn't that delicious? Sort of like perfume, isn't it? Now, why don't these need any dirt?
Because they're in stems.
All right, where are they getting their food?
You might put the water on the stones.
Well, yes, they need water from the stones, but it's just like the onion, isn't it? The food is in the bulbs.
You can see there's a root right here.
Yes. Shall we see if we can lift it up? I bet some pebbles will fall out, but we'll lift it up, and you can see how all the roots are grown together. Look at that.
They're shaping like...
What does that remind you of? A whole nest of...
worms.
Worms or snakes.
Like the bowl.
What? They're shaping like the bowl. They're taking the shape of the bowl because that's the only way they can go. They can't go down into the ground like they would if they were outside. But this is a nice way to get some greenery and some nice fragrance in your house while it's still winter. And you can, after they've bloomed inside, you can plant them outside, and they might bloom again next spring outside. Paper white narcissus. That's a long name, but it's a pretty one from the bulbs. Well, while I'm putting that away, take a look at this funny-looking thing. Do you ever eat those at your house? Do you ever eat these at your house? What do you call them? Don't you know the name of this? It has two names. Some people call it one name and some people call it the other. What shape does it remind you of? Something that grows on the tree and it's yellow and we eat it in the fall.
Squash.
Pear. Do squashes grow on trees?
No.
No.
They're sort of like gourds. They grow on a vine.
Yeah. Well, some people call this an alligator pear. I'm not sure why. Maybe they think alligators have skin like that.
Yeah, because it's green and it has little,
like bumps,
brown.
like scales. But I call it an avocado. Haven't you heard of avocados?
Oh yeah, but I thought I was saying that, but the ones that my mother gets, they're not quite like that.
Right. Well, usually when you get them, they come from Florida and other warm places, and they're very hard, and you have to wait till they get soft. And what do you think we're going to find in the middle of this?
Pit.
A pit.
No,
One?
not
Just
a pit. It's shaped like a ball. It's one of these.
right. What would you call that? What do we find in the grapefruit?
Seeds.
Seeds. Well, that's what we're going to find in here, I think.
Giant.
One big, wow, look at that seed. That's a giant.
Squishy.
Oh, and look what's already started to happen.
Starting to make roots already.
It's starting to grow. So that one will be easy to get a plant out of.
What you have to do when you put a glass of water and then you stick toothpicks
right,
in it.
Like this, perhaps?
My friend's friends were growing one, and this had cracked open at the top, and there was a long vine sort of like this.
Well, I think we have one
tangled up
like that in a minute. But this is how it looks when you first start it. And see how you put toothpicks in the sides to hold it up, and then it starts to crack.
Is it soft?
No, feel it. It's still hard.
But the inside of the avocado is
And the flat side is the side you put down, and the pointy side is the side you put up. The roots are going to come out here, and the sprout out the top. Now let's see if we have one that's already started.
That's a different kind of
I'll
avocado.
put that over next.
That came from a different kind of avocado.
Right, there are lots of kinds. Some are big and some are little. Now this one has already cracked.
There's a great big crack at the bottom.
And here comes the leaves right out the top.
There's a lot of roots.
And there are the roots. Look at those roots. Big roots and little roots. Now, do you think this can stay in the water forever? What would you have to do with this pretty soon when it gets planted
in your garden?
Well,
or in a pot.
Or in a pot is better, because unless it's summer. If you're growing one in summer, then you could put it in your garden for the summer. But this is another tree, like the grapefruit tree, that comes from Florida and places where it's hot. And if you want to grow it up here, you have to keep it inside in the winter.
Is that an avocado?
Yes. Isn't that nice? We have, how many stages do we have? We have
4.
1, 2, 3, 4, right, from the seed to the seed that's just getting started to the seed that's got a sprout.
This one has already started, though.
Yes, it's maybe it should be in here.
Yeah, 5 stages.
5 stages?
Because after that you.
If we ever.
Grow again.
Right, if we move to Florida, if we moved Hodge Podge Lodge to Florida and put the tree outside, we might someday get big avocados on. Wouldn't that be a surprise? Does anybody want a taste of avocado? Just I, right? Usually children don't like avocados very much, but grown-ups do.
My mother does.
Well, I think I'll have the rest of that for breakfast or supper. That's a delicious, ripe one. What's the name of this now?
Avocado.
Avocado. And what's another name for it?
Alligator pear.
Alligator pear. Good, I bet you'll know that one next time.
Alligator pear is easy. Well, it's the easier name for it.
Yes, because it reminds you of an animal.
Yeah, and an avocado. It sort of feels like it, and then it has shapes like it. That looks sort of like an avocado that's rotten.
Sort of big, right? It looked like sort of an animal to me. Doesn't it have sort of a? Does it remind you of a walrus? Yeah. A big old walrus?
Or a bird.
Or a bird. Well, what do you think it really is?
It's a vegetable. Or a seed. Vegetable or seed.
You know what it is? It's just a plain old potato. Don't you recognize a potato?
It's giant size.
It is a big potato.
It must be an early one because it's green and it has the eyes are
It's been out in the light, and when you keep potatoes in the light, they start to get green. But look what's happening. Leaves are starting to grow here, and look where it's been in the water. Roots. Roots and leaves.
I like to take off the eyes when they're brown.
The sprouts.
Good.
The sprouts that come from the eyes, yes. So that's another idea. Think how easy that is, just to take a potato, put it in a dish of water, and go away for a little while. When you come back, maybe in a week or two, you have some green leaves and some roots. And speaking of potatoes,
that's a sweet potato.
A sweet potato makes a nice plant too.
This one looks like a sweet potato with a little baby on the side.
Yes, that could be a funny little animal too. Somebody said they thought this looked like ivy. It almost does, doesn't it? If you don't look and see where all the pretty vines are coming from.
Sort of. If you stand it up, it's like a beaver.
But if you're going to try to grow a sweet potato plant, you ought to try to get one from a stand along the road. The ones in the stores sometimes have poison on them to keep them from growing, and you can wait and wait and wait and never get any sweet potato vines. So if you're out in the country sometime and pass one of those fruit markets, that's a good place to try to get a sweet potato to grow. So that's very easy, isn't it? All you have to do, a little bit of water. Don't let it dry up. And you can take this potato and this potato and plant them in your garden in the summertime and get a lot more potatoes. Wouldn't that be a surprise, to dig a big hole and put the potato in and then dig it up at the end of the summer and have enough potatoes for the whole family to eat?
When we go to my grandmother's, sometimes she plants potatoes and we go and dig them up in the garden, and there are a whole bunch of puny ones about that big.
Right, you always get some puny ones, but then you get some big ones too. And here's an interesting little thing. You will recognize this, I hope.
Pineapple.
A pineapple. All right, this is the way pineapples really grow in Hawaii, on top of a stem. And I don't think you could probably get one to grow like this, because this came from a special florist shop. But you can take the top of your pineapple that you eat at home and stick it in a pot like this, and you'll get beautiful leaves. And maybe you get a pineapple.
If you do get one at a florist shop, if you can get one of these, then you can grow them in your home, and I think it only takes 6 months.
Right, I can smell this one's getting ripe. It's a little too far away for you. What do you notice about those leaves? What do they remind you of? Some kind of a tool that your father uses?
Saw.
A saw. Aren't they just like...
What's the American flag for?
Well, I don't know, just to be patriotic.
My mother has a pineapple plant growing.
Oh, you're lucky. Well,
I think it takes, when you grow them in Hawaii, I think it takes 22 months from when you just do it. But they have great big trees to get pineapples from in Hawaii.
I see you've been doing some research, Julie. Here's another surprise. There's a present for you, and a present for you. What is that?
Dates.
Do you like dates?
Never had them.
If you eat the date, inside you'll find what?
Seed.
You know now. Inside most everything that you eat, any kind of fruit, you'll find a seed. And here's what a date seed looks like. It's long and thin.
It looks like it's in halves.
Right, it looks like it's going to break in half, but it isn't. It's very, very tough. But I have a friend of mine who likes to try different things, and she decided that she would like to see if she could get a date tree. So she planted a seed, and this is what came up. But it's taken 2 years.
2 years?
2 years to get this little tiny date palm. This is a kind of palm tree.
Maybe it takes as long as they have a lot of date palms.
Right, very good.
That's what what do they call her? Nomads. Yeah, nomads.
The nomads? Oh, that's a good word.
They
Right, it takes a long time it's going to take a long time for this to have dates on. Probably not unless we move to California or to the Sahara Desert and plant it. Is it going to have dates on? But it's curious to say, would you like to see my palm tree? And show your friends your little palm tree, even if it's a date palm tree. Well, does that give you some ideas of some things you might do at home? Here's one more idea. You don't have to plant seeds. Sometimes it's just as much fun to go for a walk out in the yard where everything is sort of dead, and just break off branches of things as you're walking by, and come back in the house and see what will happen to them if you stick them in water in a warm
They will grow.
room. Right, well, they won't really grow, like sometimes they will get roots, but the main thing that happens usually is that their buds get fat, and they'll start to bloom. Now, these little buds are still very small, but you can see they're getting a little green on, you see? They're almost ready to pop open. And this is one of your old friends that everybody recognizes in the spring when it's got yellow flowers on. Forsythia. Forsythia. Oh, I do have a baby pussy willow here too,
Yeah,
Hal.
I was going to say in the springtime you get pussy
Pussy
There's
willows?
one right there.
Right. Oh, yes, there's a baby pussy willow that you can really see. See? Get your finger off, Julie, so we can all see it, please. Thank you. See that little tiny baby pussy willow? So spring can't be far away when you can see pussy willows, right?
When
So.
This looks sort of like.
Yeah, that's another pussy willow.
In our classroom every spring, everybody brings in pussy willows.
Well, that's a sign of spring, and everybody's tired of the long, hard winter, and they're anxious to see spring come. So you might not think this is a very beautiful bouquet, the way it looks in the beginning, but it's full of surprises. And in about a week or 10 days, instead of a whole bunch of dead-looking branches, you'll have a bunch of flowers. And don't just stop with the things in your yard. You can go down to the swamp or the woods and pick some branches there. This is a curious plant that has little round buds on it that are getting fat. And the thing I like about it best is it has a smell. It smells spicy. Can you smell that where I broke it off? Spice bush. So look around at your house, in the kitchen, out in the yard, or at the grocery store, and see what the possibilities are. See if you can't find something that you can start right now in a little bit of water and have yourself a nice garden inside for the rest of the winter. It really is fun. Are you going to do that when you get home, Hal and Julie?
Yep.
Good. Hal and Julie are going to try starting something. Maybe they'll bring it back and show it to me in Hodge Podge Lodge. And if something you plant grows, I wish you'd write me a letter and tell me about it. Have fun with nature and come back again.
This program was made possible through funds contributed by members of the Maryland Center for Public Broadcasting.
Pre-recorded in the studios of the Maryland Center for Public Broadcasting.